This meeting is being live streamed. Got it.
I'm also going to mute you temporarily. No offense. It says we're streaming live on Facebook. There it is. Apparently we are streaming live on Facebook. My screens are buffering. Hello, Facebook world, live world. I guess, is that redundant to say that the world is the live world? Aren't we always the live world in the moment if we're practicing presence? I think so. I don't know. Bear with me just a second, everybody. I'm trying to get all my screens sorted out and doing that whole thing. So while I'm doing that, Stephen Medley is going to unmute himself and tell us a joke. Do you know any funny jokes, Stephen Medley?
I do not know any jokes. I'll Google one. Just Google a joke.
Yeah, Google a joke while I'm getting
Best
set up.
joke for 2022. Okay. One has a lot of reading involved in it. Sorry.
Yeah, you want to Google like best dad joke. Those are always short and sweet.
Okay, what's red and moves up and down?
What is red and moves up and down? I don't know what's red and moves up and down. What is red and moves up and down, Stephen Medley?
A tomato in an elevator.
Tomato in an elevator. Da-da. For everybody that's going to continue to watch the live stream, even after that really bad joke, welcome to another episode of Parents Helping Parents. We're super glad that you're with us tonight. There are lots of different things you could be doing, especially for people here in the Oklahoma City area. There's lots going on. The Women's College World Series is in town. OU has successfully played their way into the championship game. Crazy thing is the other state school is playing right now to potentially play. We might have an all Oklahoma College Softball World Series championship match, which would be incredible for the state. OSU baseball is currently playing in the super regional. Win or lose, or I guess it's do or die. They win, they go to the College Baseball World Series. They lose, they're out. OU lost one earlier today and then got a game delayed. I don't know what's going on with OU baseball. All I'm saying is baseball and softball in the state are really rocking and rolling. You know what else is rocking and rolling in the state of Oklahoma? Recovery. What? That's it. Medway's giving me the thumbs up, even though you guys can't see. So welcome. Here's what I want everybody to do real quick. If you're watching live on Facebook, reach up, click the share button. People ask us all the time how you can help support the mission. That's a really easy thing to do. Is if you're watching, share the content. Let's go with a modest estimate to how many people you're friends with on Facebook. I'm going to assume everybody has at least 500 friends. If you don't, please don't be offended by that. I'm sure that you just have a small circle, and that's okay. Some people have, like Medley probably has 5,000 friends on Facebook and have blue checks. So what happens is when you share this video to your wall, to your news feed, it exponentially expands the number of people that could potentially hear a message of hope, a message of recovery. And I guarantee you, even if you only have 200 Facebook friends, that somebody in that 200 is or knows someone who's struggling with a drug or alcohol related issue or a mental health related issue. So sharing the content could actually quite literally save somebody's life. So reach up, click the share button, do that. If you're not familiar with Parents Helping Parents and you're watching this video because somebody shared it and you're just seeing it, or you're watching it on YouTube or however you got here, welcome. Parents Helping Parents is an Oklahoma-based nonprofit organization with the message of providing shared experiences, resources, and education to parents who have a child any age that's struggling with a substance use disorder. So some of the parents that we work with have children that are 14 and are starting to experiment with drugs and alcohol, and they don't know how to deal with that. So we like to help walk down that road with them. Some of our parents have children who are 44, who are in late stage addiction, and they're still struggling to get that person help and get that person on the right path. Some parents that we work with have young people who have found recovery and have maintained sobriety, and we help a wide variety of people, but that's kind of the corner of the world that we rest in, is helping parents who have a loved one, especially a child who's struggling with drug and alcohol use. For more information about what we do and the different variety of support groups that we have available and all the different things that we're up to in Oklahoma and in some surrounding places, north of the border up in Wichita for sure, you can check us out in two different places. You can go to our website, www.parentshelpingparents.info, or you can go to our Facebook page at Parents Helping Parents, Inc. That's the best way to stay in touch with us and all the wonderful things that we are up to as an organization. So tonight's going to be just kind of a dialogue, an interactive conversation with me and a good friend of mine that I will introduce here momentarily. But we want to hear from you as we're talking, as we're kind of churning over some ideas and some discussions. We want to know what questions you might have about what we're talking about. So there's two different ways that you can interact with me and Steve tonight. One of those ways is if you're watching live on Facebook, you can comment on the video. I'm going to be monitoring that and be reading and checking out comments there. Here's what you need to remember. That's the internet, and it is Facebook. So comments and questions that you post there are there forever, for all to read. 200 years from now, when modern advanced civilizations are digging up our old computers, they will see the question that you asked tonight logged in the archives of Facebook forever. So if you're concerned about your anonymity or you're concerned about your privacy, you can ask a question directly to me through a private text line. The number for that text line is in the title of this video. That text goes directly to a special Parents Helping Parents text line that I'm monitoring. After we answer the question, I delete all the messages and it will be gone. So you can definitely ask private questions there. Other than that, I think that's about it. So our guest tonight is a good buddy of mine, Stephen Medley. As my dog begins to bark, I'm sure that that's a book that I've ordered from Amazon, because I have many leather-bound books at my house. I'm trying to figure out how to get you on camera, Steve. I got to unpin myself. Gallery, remove pin. There we go. Okay, we're both up. Steve's unmuted. Steve is both a good buddy and a colleague of mine that has just a wealth of experience in recovery. Well, he's got a wealth of experience in addiction too, probably, but also in recovery. So a little bit of both. So Steve, why don't you get us started, man? Just kind of introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what your story is and what you do for work and all that kind of good stuff for a few minutes.
Sure. My name's Steve Medley. I am a person in long-term recovery. I am one of the co-founders of Stages of Recovery. We do long-term treatment for men and women who are suffering from substance use disorder. We are passionate about helping people find their why and helping them find a road to freedom. We work with ages all the way from 17 to, probably 77 if they're pretty mobile. We work with all substances, and we also do work with co-occurring disorders. So people that have substance use disorder as a primary and other mental health issues, we are highly equipped to take care of those also at Stages. We have 3 locations. We are in Lubbock, Texas, Waco, Texas, and recently started a program out in Oklahoma City. We have 3 levels of care. We have a very intense, highly structured and accountable transitional housing program that's a minimum of 90 days that works very closely with the parents of the young adults, and we help them and the failure to launch crew also, and we help them kind of get refocused and start living their own lives. And we do that by coaching the parents and helping the young individual kind of learn how to live on their own. We also have a less intense program where they basically go to the same 15-week clinical program, but they don't live in our housing. And most of the times that's good for the professionals or the people that have families at home and they can't really leave work or they can't really leave home. And then the least invasive program that we have is actually in Oklahoma City. We have a 3-day IOP program that meets 3 days a week, 3 hours a day, a total of 10 hours a week. And we are in network with all of the major insurance companies at all 3 of those locations. A little bit about me. I started using alcohol when I was 15 years old here in Oklahoma City. And I pretty much fell in love with it immediately. I remember the first thing that I drank was like a half a box of wine of my mom's. And man, I don't think that I could ever feel the way that I felt when I did that. And it was kind of it was a new feeling for me and I enjoyed it. And so I kind of ran with it. And so pretty much from the age of 15 all the way through 19, I pretty much drank every single day. My mom kicked me out of my house when I was 17. And I don't know that that was necessarily legal at the time, but she figured out a way to do it. But I was gone. I was involved in gangs. I broke into cars. I had several possession charges, some felony charges. I was just kind of an all around, I was a mess, really. I did have ADHD. Well, I guess I still currently do. I need to text somebody real quick to come get this dog real fast. He's going crazy. I got a puppy.
Puppies are a lot like children. They require more work than you anticipated.
Yeah. So by the time I was 19, I had 2 felony possessions, 2 DUIs, and the state of Oklahoma saw fit that I probably needed to go to residential treatment. So I went to a program out here in Oklahoma called Community House, and I was there for 6 months. And then I went to another program called Ivanhoe that was a kind of another part of the same company. And I did their transitional housing program that had an outpatient program too. I fell in love with recovery there. I finally felt like I fit in. I found a group of people that I felt like understood me. And they were all different than me. They looked different. Their skin was different. Their backgrounds were different. The music they would listen to was different. The clothes were different. Everything was different. And I was pretty confident that if you weren't wearing blue when I was 19, I didn't need to be your friend. And man, I learned a lot there, and it was a really good experience. I remember the moment for me where this light came on, and I realized, and I hope we kind of get to talk about it today, but I realized that for a long time in my life, all I wanted to be was normal. And I had ADHD growing up, and man, I was just a terror. And I was pretty much unmedicated, except when my mom forced me to take my Ritalin. But I was extremely annoying. And I was actually visiting a friend of mine recently, and his son reminded me a lot of myself, and the way that my friend and his wife like treated their son was pretty amazing to watch, because they were really patient with him, and so were the siblings, amazingly. Like he was just bonkers, just going crazy, and everybody else was just extremely normal and calm. And I was just watching that whole dynamic, and I was just blown away. Uh, that's some It was pretty interesting. And at any rate, so I never, like, because I was ADHD, it was hard for me to make friends. I got shunned away a lot, and rightfully so. I was probably pretty damn annoying, and nobody wanted to hang out with me, and I get it. And so I carried that with me a lot through my addiction. And when I got to Community House, and I learned about recovery, and I found a group of people that were also shunned away to a degree, and were also ADHD, most of them, and we're also dealing with depression and anxiety disorders, and had also like really disrupted their life. I was like, man, like, y'all are my people. Like, this is where I belong.
Is that what you mean? So I don't want to interrupt, Steve, but you said something earlier, and I don't want to skip past it too fast, that when you found recovery, you finally felt like you fit in.
Yeah.
Is that what you're describing now? Is that what you mean by that? That you finally found people that you had more in common with, that you had difference with, or?
Yeah. So like the friends that I was growing up with and getting in all the trouble, like we liked the same music. We liked the same kind of cars. We liked the same, all of that stuff was very similar, but the things that we would do to get the attention weren't positive. And then I also never really felt like I fit in with my family, close, the blood family, the real close ones, like mom, dad, and sister, and definitely like the extended family, because they only saw my crazy ass like twice a year, and they were like, I don't want to mess with that.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't that I was raised, like, I think my mom was a good mom, my dad was a good dad. Like, I had a pretty decent childhood, but yeah, like I don't think that anybody really intentionally set out to make me feel like I wasn't a part of. I think it was just something that kind of either grew inside of me, or I don't know how to really explain it. But yeah, like, the answer is yes. The short answer is yes. Like, I feel like, though, they hurt like I hurt. They felt like I felt. They laughed at the same things that I laughed at. But they all looked totally different, and they came from all different walks of life. So
yeah, that's a very common thing that I hear from people who have found recovery, right? Is that feeling of, man, for the first time, this is a group that I really felt like I could belong to.
yeah.
So yeah. Hey, I got a list of questions. I know I sent to you earlier, but I really want to spend some time breaking some of these things down. And this is a topic that I've been wanting to discuss on the live stream for quite some time, because I feel like that there's some mystery and some question, especially like from normies, right? Or from family members of somebody who's struggling, that we don't fully understand a lot of times. I think some of the terminology and some of the ideas that when people in the recovery community say something, we're like, oh yeah, sounds great, but we kind of miss some of the nuance. And so I wanted to kind of talk some of that through with you. So we're going to start, and I'm going to ask you to define for you, like, what is recovery? Like, when somebody says, oh, I'm in recovery, or when somebody says, oh, they're a person in recovery, like, what does that mean? What is recovery?
I think for me, like I go back to like the disease concept of addiction, and I think about remission, right? So a disease is like defined as something that's incurable, irreversible, and deadly, right? And uh, when I'm in recovery, I feel like my addiction is in remission to a degree. But I also think that it's also like a lifestyle thing. So like you said the word normie, and I feel like for me, like at the age of 19 when I got sober, I was an alcoholic. I looked forward into my life and I was like, man, like I'm going to miss out on a lot of the cool things that come with alcohol or that come with just being alive, right? Like, what am I supposed to do on my 21st birthday? Everybody usually goes to the bar and buys a legal beverage. Most of them do a lot more than one, right? But that's the thing that you're supposed to do. Like when you get married, you're supposed to have a glass of champagne. When your son gets of age, you're supposed to have a beer with your son. And like when you go out for a business dinner, you have, you know, a drink at the table, you know, like all of those things like ran through my head. And then it was like, okay, well, what about college? Like, well, college looks totally different without alcohol. And all of those things for me was, those are all like, when I looked at it objectively, it was just like a lifestyle thing. And when I think about like what's normal, I have a friend that has had the same bottle of vodka in the fridge until I recently accidentally broke it for, I don't know, like a year and a half. And I think about that and I'm like, that's just a waste of a bottle and space in the fridge. It needs to be drank, right? And that's normal for that individual, and it's normal for, so I'm sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent. Like, so like I feel like for me, what's recovery is finding like peace in what's normal for me. And so I think recovery from anything can be peaceful, right? So somebody who is just like fought cancer and they're in remission, like they're normal from what it was prior to having cancer is different than what it is now, right? And as long as they continue on their treatment plan and they do the things that they're supposed to do, then their disease should stay in remission also, right? But we don't know if it always will. And the same thing is true about addiction. Does that answer your question? I don't know if it does.
Yeah, I actually have a follow-up question based on something you said. Saying that it's a lifestyle, does that mean that it's more complex than just not drinking or using drugs anymore?
Absolutely. I think it is. I think that you think about like, I talk to a lot of the younger guys about when you think about a basketball player like Michael Jordan or LeBron James, and you say, what would it take for that?
Well,
guy?
first of all, those guys aren't even in the same category, but I'm going to let you finish.
I agree. They are in this regard. What would it take for Michael Jordan to never pick up a basketball again? And what would it take for LeBron James to never pick up a basketball again? Right? It would have to take a radical shift in their lifestyle massively. And there would have to be something so traumatic and so dramatic that they would have to say, I can't ever pick that up again. And the only way that somebody would not be able to pick up that basketball again is if that lifestyle changed.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about change in recovery, they say the only thing that you have to change is everything. And I challenge you to find somebody that's in long-term recovery that hasn't changed almost everything in their life, from the people that they choose to hang out with to, I was talking to a kid 3 days ago that was not 3 weeks ago at my program that was, man, he's just sagging out of his pants, just sagging big time, like way below the buttocks. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, look, man, like I get it. Like I used to sag my pants. Also, they weren't all the way off my ass, but they were pretty far. And I got lip about it. And and I think about that. Like I remember like the transition when I decided to pull my pants up above my waist and literally wear a belt. And man, it was the transformation that I went through when I went to 6 months at a community house, 6 months at Ivanhoe, and then 6 months in the boot camp. That's changed who I perceived myself as, and it changed my lifestyle and the things that I did. Like one of the only things that hasn't changed with me is the music, the music that I prefer more times than not.
Yeah. So as I hear you describe that, for somebody who might still be active in their addiction, or for maybe a parent who's got a child that's active in their addiction, that may sound a little overwhelming, right? Oh, the only thing you have to change is everything. Good luck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That feels a little bit like an impossible task. So when you start to work with people, or whether it's you personally or Stages or whatever, when the program starts to work with people, when you say, hey, we want to put together a program of recovery that's going to help you succeed in doing those things, what is that? Like, what is a program of recovery? Or is that just some kind of made up phrase that people like to throw around, but nobody really knows what it means?
I think that's a good question. I think to answer the first part of that question is like the only thing you have to change is everything. Like I think there's, for every person, there's probably like 5 main things that they need to change first. And if they change those 5 main things, then over time, like those small, really mundane, hard things to change will just change because of the things that you previously changed. So like the first thing is to stop using drugs or alcohol, right? The second thing is choose a program of recovery, which I'll get back to, right? The third thing is change who you're hanging out with, right? And when you change who you hang out with, just by nature, like you change the way you think. That just happens automatically. It will shift for you. They say that you're an average of the 5 people that you're around. And if you're around 5 pigeons, you're going to be a pigeon. But if you're around 5 eagles, you're going to be an eagle. Like they say, you can look at your bank account and the 5 people that you're closest to, and your bank accounts will look pretty close to the same. It's just the way it is. And so we do it unconsciously. The change happens over time, the big change. Now, when you're talking about like a program of recovery, so I think I think about that Denzel Washington quote from Training Days, was like shoe program. And I think about what does it mean, a program of recovery? And I think it just means like a program of change, right? Like, what am I going to do differently? And then if it's a program, it's consistent. It happens all the time. It doesn't really deviate. It just continues to change and change and change.
Yeah.
And I think some of the things for me have changed slower. For example, like relationships. I'm really, really slow on that change front. But then there was a lot of other changes that I was like way, way fast on. And I think that just had to do with like the people that were around me at the early times in my recovery, the things that they were talking about and focused on. Those influenced my decisions in the directions that I went. I don't know if that answers your question. There's But
Yeah.
there's ultimately, there's like the 12-step program of recovery. There's a SMART program of recovery, which is goal oriented. There's more of a Christian focused one. Um, it's just about being willing to shift from the direction that you're going to a different direction.
Yeah. So you said it's important for somebody to choose that program of recovery. How many different options are there? Is there
There's countless, I'm sure.
countless?
I don't know. The ones that I'm probably familiar with would be a 12-step program. That's the one that I'm mostly familiar with. There's a SMART recovery program it's based on SMART goals, right? And they're more,
Yeah.
that's more based on like moderation, right? It can be abstinence, but it's based on moderation. 12-step recovery is based on abstinence. There's also I think it's called celebration. That's more, it's a little bit 12-step, but also like heavily influenced by the Bible. There's a 12-step Buddha one. There's a bunch of like offsprings from the 12 steps. But really, like I think I try to think of like a program of recovery isn't just like the 12 steps, but it's also like a shift in your perception of the world. It's also a shift in your personality. It's also a shift in like your lifestyle. Like all of those things are important components to make one overarching program of recovery. Like you select that because like a foundation program, right? Whether it's like 12 SMART or 12-step or Christianity or religion or whatever it might be, right? And then on top of that, you're like, okay, well, I need to add in some more things. Like none of those programs talk about fitness. They don't ever talk about like the benefits of having consistently like working out or playing some type of sport or activities and what that does for the brain and the chemicals in the brain. Because ultimately at the end of the day, like addiction is a brain disease that's fueled by chemicals. It's either fueled by dopamine or serotonin, and there's either an imbalance where it dumps too much or doesn't give you enough. That's what deals with that's anxiety or depression. And then there's also like the fact that our old brain really is like a reward system. And when we smoke weed or do heroin or shoot meth or whatever it is that we do, man, it just floods the brain with more chemicals, man. And we have to win that chemical game, but we have to find a way to win the chemical game without drugs. And the same drugs or the same chemicals are released when you have sex that are released whenever you're doing opiates, and the same chemicals are released when you're playing basketball and you hit the game-winning shot. And that's the same thing that comes out whenever it's dopamine, whenever we're like drinking alcohol or smoking weed. So that's another layer to it. I don't know. I hope that's confusing people.
No, I don't think it's confusing people at all. The follow-up question would be, it's clear that there's more than one program of recovery.
Absolutely.
Right? How does someone know what program of recovery is right for them?
Man, I don't know. I think it really comes down to like somebody's willingness, you know. I think you can intertwine a lot of those, and some places do, right?
Yeah.
So some places do really well at intertwining the religion piece with the 12-step piece, and it just creates this because spirituality is a really important part just in general of believing something greater than yourself. Like you are not, it's just getting out of ego, right? And if you can't get out of ego, get out of your own way, then you probably have a less likelihood of being successful for long periods of time.
Yeah.
I don't
tell me if you think this is if this lands or doesn't land. Because I think I've told people, I've used this example with people in my own office at times. It's like, if I'm 150 pounds overweight, there are lots of different ways and diets and exercise programs that can help me lose that weight, right? And it might not matter as much which program I pick as it matters more how committed I am to working whatever program I get into.
Yeah,
Does that
absolutely.
is that would that be the same for recovery?
Absolutely. I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some
Because
might work better than others for each individual, but overall it's more about my commitment to the
absolutely.
process. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like the battle that that person has with being 150 pounds overweight is literally the same exact battle that a drug addict has with doing drugs. Because when we eat something really good, guess what happens? We get rewarded in our brain with chemicals. And when we work out and we take care of our body and we start to see the changes, that triggers that same reward response in the brain. So it's about, I think that's a really great point. It's about commitment and willingness. Like, what are you willing to sacrifice today to have the things that you want in the future?
Yeah. We had a text comment / question come in. I'll read it to you, just to get your thoughts. And it might be a simple, like, yeah, sounds great. But maybe you've got some additional thoughts. So the comment was that I've heard that the three most important things for recovery are: one, embrace a valid treatment program; two, be part of a recovery community somehow; and three, have some positive, loving support from family or friends.
I would agree with those. It's for I would like some clarification on the first one, like program. What was the first one?
Embrace a valid treatment program.
Yeah, so like a valid treatment program, like a treatment center, or a program of recovery that we're talking about, like a 12-step program or something like that.
It sounds like it's more like, if you're willing to participate in treatment, make sure it's a good treatment program and not some sort of loosey-goosey.
Sure. So I'll tell
I'm
you
not
that.
I'm not gonna name names, but
Yeah,
there's loosey-goosey treatment programs, right?
there are loosey goosey, but I'll tell you this: like the level of somebody's commitment and willingness has a drastic impact on the value of their recovery. I've been in the treatment industry for 15 years now, and I've seen horribly ran treatment centers and some of the best recovery come out of there. And it has nothing really to do with the treatment center, except for the person that was in that treatment center was ready to make a change. And so they chose to take all the information in. Most treatment centers, not all of them, there's definitely some outliers in this. Most treatment centers have some of the same basic stuff that they have to disseminate. How it's disseminated is definitely different across the board, right? But you can spend $100,000 for a 30-day treatment program, and they can have the absolute best clinicians and doctors and all that other stuff. And if that client's not willing to accept that information, you've wasted your money. So it's more about, they talked about community, and they also talked about the loving support around, right? I would say that the most important part is willingness. I think community is absolutely imperative. And then as long as the love and support from the community is not codependent or disruptive to somebody's recovery, then I think, yes, you have a good answer. And sometimes I think families confuse enabling with love. And not to say that they don't love their loved one. They just mix up what that looks like sometimes. And sometimes that enabling could feel like I'm loving them, but they're actually acting out of fear. And that's the dangerous part.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So next question, which I think is a great question. And I think a lot of families who are trying to support a loved one in their program of recovery are constantly wanting to ask this question. How do you know if somebody's program is working?
Mhm.
Outside of the obvious, I mean, I think the obvious answer is if somebody's not staying sober, their program's obviously not working well.
Sure. I would tell you that most of the times it's going to be that gut feeling. If you feel like they might be lying, or you feel like they might be misleading you, or you feel like they're not really right, you're probably right. You're probably right. And another really great sign is drastic changes very quickly. If somebody signed up for like Stages does 90-day treatment, and somebody comes into our program and they're excited about it, and 45 days into it, they're like, man, this sucks, it's stupid, I'm ready to leave. And they call their mom and dad and they're like, I'm leaving. That should be a huge red flag, you know?
Yeah.
Or
even a sudden change to leave. Like maybe they've made a 6-month commitment to sober living, but after 4 months, they're like, no, I'm good.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
out. Like that could be equally as much of a red flag.
Absolutely. And everything could be planned out perfectly and lined up just how you think it should be lined up for them to be successful. The issue is that word commitment. They made a 6-month commitment. And if parents or a loved one don't hold the line on the commitment, and they allow the loved one to leave without any consequences or challenges, the only thing that they're doing is they're giving that individual permission to not follow through with their commitments. And that ultimately results in disaster.
Yeah.
Because
yeah, that's good.
Recovery for me, I don't know what it is for everybody else, but recovery for me is a lifelong commitment. I didn't sign up for this for a short period of time. And I think that's one of those hard things. Like, well, people are like, oh, well, they say it's day to day, like live your day one day at a time. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, man. But for me, like this is who I am. This is what I chose to do. This is my lifestyle. You're not going to deter me. And I'm so kind of like ingrained in that the people that I choose to hang around with, that even when I go, and I remember I went, I'll just short detour here, my lifestyle of recovery. When I went to an interview one day in an industry that's kind of fraught with like drug and alcohol use, I told them, I said, listen, I'm in recovery, and it's really important to me that I don't get asked to use drugs, or I don't get asked to go to a bar afterwards. In addition to that, if I feel like I'm about to drink or use, I'm going to leave and I'm going to go to a meeting, and I'm going to need you to support me on that. And if that's not possible, that's cool. I'm going to move on and look for a different place.
Yeah.
And I'm really that forward about my recovery, because it's important to me that those people out there who are my acquaintances, not necessarily my close friends, they get it. They understand who I am.
Yeah. So you took a sidestep. Now I'm going to take a sidestep, and then we can come full circle. And you don't have to give me a long answer to this question.
Sorry, I'll try.
How do you balance that personal approach that you have of, hey, I've got to be out there with my recovery because that's what's best for my program, with kind of this traditional idea of anonymity and secrecy in the program and protecting that principle?
Yeah,
tradition maybe is a better word.
It's a tradition, and the tradition's only around the word, only talks about like which group you go to, right? So if I told you that I'm a member of this 12-step group at this location that believes this XYZ, right? That's breaking an anonymity, right? And that's attraction rather than promotion, or that's promotion rather than attraction, right? So if I was to get on here and say, well, you need to go to this particular group because this is the best one, and that's where, like, I don't ever post about my sobriety on Facebook, right? It's just who I am, right?
Yeah.
And like for those who, well, we won't even get into all that. Like, I'm probably a little bit louder about my recovery when I need to be, and sometimes I'm really quiet about it. Just kind of depends on the environment that I'm in.
Do you think a part of that too is because you work in treatment, you're in positions more often where it's more socially acceptable to be more out there about your recovery than it might be for somebody who's a physician?
Yeah, absolutely. It is. Hang on real quick.
Yeah.
My dog's in the backyard. I think that I think yes. I'm gonna have to pause real quick because she didn't get the text. Give me a second.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. I'll monologue. We've had some good, great comments come through on Facebook. I'll just kind of review some of those for everybody. Kira, glad you're watching.
I'm back.
We obviously love you too. That did not take long. Jason Franks, man, thanks for your feedback and your comments. So let me roll into our last question. And I actually have one question that I ask everybody. So there's still 2 questions left, but one of them is super short. The last question that I wanted to bounce around with you, Steve, is should your program of recovery change over time? Or are you locked into a program of recovery from day one sobriety forever?
No, absolutely. Mine changes. I think there's also a camp of it not. I've got a friend out here in Oklahoma that's been doing the same thing for 20 years. The same 12-step meetings. Wow. Same. It's the same. I think that mine has morphed into different things throughout time. I have ADHD, so I get bored pretty easily. Working in the treatment industry is not a replacement for my own recovery, but I will tell you that it definitely keeps the wound open, and it reminds me often that I do not want to go back. I think that my recovery has shifted, from different areas, from like recovery from alcohol and drugs to relationship issues, to gambling issues, to financial issues. Like it's changed. Mine has changed, and I've been sober for it'll be this year, on the 21st of this month, it'll be 24 years. Oh. And the majority of my life at this point has been in recovery. And I think one of the cool things for me was I've never bought a legal, well, I guess I have. I've bought somebody a drink before, so I can take that back. We'll move on.
You were going to say I've never bought a legal drink. You've never bought myself. A legal drink for yourself. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Hey, last question, and I kind of ask this like 99% of the time of everybody that comes on the show. So I'll ask you, if you had like 30 seconds, 60 seconds to give like one single message to somebody, who may be listening that's struggling, what would your like 60-second message be?
I would say that it seems scary to want to change. It seems daunting. It seems overbearing. It seems impossible. I remember my first or second day sober. I was thinking about the dude that just got the year chip, and I'm like, man, how the hell did he do that? Oh my God. And I think in those moments, it's a day at a time. But I think the most important thing that I would say is that every single one of us, we have the ability to choose what's normal for us. And a lot of the times when we're in our active addiction, we're living inside somebody else's world, somebody else's opinion of what the world is. And if you just stop and wait, you get to make your own decisions. You can make your own normal, and what's normal for you is not going to be normal for the person next to you. So
yeah, good stuff, man. Hey, Steve, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just for taking time out of your day to do this, man.
Sure.
For you and for the people that may be watching, like either on YouTube or on Facebook, I have put Stage's website link and Facebook link in the comments section of this video. So if you're watching on YouTube, go to @ParentsHelpingParents Inc. on Facebook, click on videos, find this video. It's got the date. You'll see me and Steve's picture on there. Look at the comment section if you want more information about Stages and their treatment programs. And I also want to let people know that Steve does not live in a storage unit. He just has recently moved homes. So there's lots of boxes laying around. He's in the process. He took time out of unpacking to share a message of hope and recovery with us. So Medley, man, it was good to see you.
You too, buddy.
I'm sure I will see you at some point this week. Everybody that was out there, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We will see you again in 2 weeks, right back here on Facebook.
Thanks.